Hey there, book people. I'm Dave. Welcome to another monthly recap video. This isn't exactly the kind of recap video I was planning on doing this month. I had talked about doing some more individualized reviews throughout the month instead of this one big catch up at the end of the month. But I guess I just wasn't confident I could really muster the level of enthusiasm that's required for a BookTube video. Been working on some other projects, and so I just didn't do it. So we're going to wrap it up. We're going to try to get this knocked out pretty quickly. Before I start, though, first things first, I really want to thank everyone who's been watching and everybody who has recently subscribed. I just kind of eked over that 100 subscriber mark, which I think is the first, threshold here on YouTube to whatever, I don't know, but I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate the subscriptions and the likes and the comments. So all right, so let's get started. So I did finish, this is a fantasy series that I've been talking about for the last couple of months, and that's the Grimm Company, and this is the last or the third in the trilogy, Dead Man's Steel. For whatever reason, this was not released in paperback in the US, so I had to grab a hardcover, obviously. So yeah, by Luke Skull. This came out in 2016, and this, like I said, this wraps up the Grimm Company series. I'm not going to talk too much about what's going on in the book because I just feel like kind of you're getting it, even though you're not spoiling this particular volume, you're perhaps spoiling the ones that precede it. So if nobody has read those yet, I don't want to be that dude. So all I can say is that, or all I want to say is that everything I liked about the series in the first two books are still present in the third book. It's gritty, it's violent, it's bloody, vulgar. It's definitely dark fantasy, and it's fun for me anyway. There were some points in the book that actually hit me in the feels a little bit, which I was kind of surprised about. But things that had been building up in the first two books kind of did their thing in this book, and it just the way it worked out was kind of depressing, actually. But that's dark fantasy. Another thing that I liked about this book or this particular volume was that Luke Skull, the author, is obviously well read in the fantasy genre. The way he ends the series, I just thought I got a chuckle. It was a little gimmicky. I mean, the guy knows how typical high fantasy ends. Everybody's happy, everything's tied up in a neat little bow, and he kind of, let's just say he pays, or he satires that sort of ending. He definitely lets you know that he thinks that it's just a joke of the genre, and so I appreciated that little tongue-in-cheek ending. So yeah, if you're a fan of dark fantasy, I am still not going to back off on my recommendation of the Grimm Company series, and I think it wraps up really well, and yeah, can't recommend this one enough. So this is a Dead Man's Steel, third book in the Grimm Company series by Luke Skull. Next up, a little bit of sci-fi, and this is a series, or I started a series that I've been talking about previously. It's something I was really putting on my priority list for 2025, and I knocked out the first volume, and that is Rally Cry, the first volume in the Lost Regiment series by William R. Forstchen. This was first printed in 1990 on Rock, and this was actually one of the first books that Rock had published. They started publishing in 1990. I think this originally came out in May. I got a tatty-ass copy of a third printing, probably from 92, but the artwork, which is uncredited, and everything is pretty much the same. So what this is about, this is a science fiction time travel novel. So this is based on the 35th Maine Infantry Regiment of the Union Army in the American Civil War. This is a fictitious regiment, although it is kind of modeled on Joshua Chamberlain's Maine Regiment, the history it has at Antietam and Gettysburg and Petersburg kind of mirror that regiment, but this is led by Andrew Kane, Colonel not Kane, Keene, Colonel Andrew Keene, who had lost an arm at Antietam, but he came back to continue to lead this regiment, and they are drawn off the siege lines at Petersburg and put on transport ships to be sailing south to the Carolinas to start another invasion or front or landing or whatever they were going to do. Instead, the ship gets stuck in a storm, and think about if you've ever seen the final countdown where the Nimitz, USS Nimitz, goes back in time to just before Pearl Harbor. It kind of reads like the same sort of storm at sea. But this transports them not to Pearl Harbor, it's somewhere else. It's definitely a different world. It's not just in time. This world has the sun is a slightly different color. There's 2 moons. There are no tides, and our regiment quickly learns that they are located, or wherever they were deposited, near another settlement of humans, and these humans are from a medieval period in our history, and not American. They are elsewhere in the world, or from elsewhere in the world. And there's a relationship that starts to build between these 2 groups of people, the regiment and the historically feudal folks that are already there. What you come to find out over time is that there are other beings on this planet, not human, and they are kind of modeled after, it seems like, the hordes of the Mongol hordes, but they're not human, but they have the similar customs, similar lifestyle, except they eat people, they eat humans. That's their food source. So that's the big conflict here. That's not spoiling too much. You eventually get to there. This was a decent book. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the juxtaposition between what was modern technology this was actually 1864, I believe, is when the regiment got sucked away. Might have been 1865, can't remember. Anyway, so the technology of that time period thrust against the feudal, medieval, almost dark age technology of the people that they encounter when they land on the new planet, essentially. What I didn't really like about this book is it spends, it's kind of a thickie, but it spends an inordinate amount of time going through the details. Okay, so this regiment, of course, conveniently has one of every type of tradesman you can imagine. There are millers, there are iron workers, there are trained engineers, there are quarrymen. So they go about building a new society using their time period, Civil War era technology, building mills, building dams, building forges and bakehouses and foundries and railroads. But again, a lot of the time in the book is spent describing all this, and I think that's great if you're like a living history buff kind of person. But for me, it was just really kind of dragging things down. Now, the last third of the book involves the pitched battle between the humans and these creatures who inhabit this planet natively, I guess. And that's where Forstchen, I think his writing really comes through. Now, he's a historian. He's originally from New Jersey, I believe. He graduated from Purdue, and with a PhD in military history with a specialized focus on the American Civil War. And that comes through in terms of how he describes how the regiment fights, and it's just spectacular. This dude really knows how to write pitched battles, and this was fantastic. And it was a combination, of course, of Civil War technology, weaponry against feudal weaponry and technology, and that he pulled it off. It was just really, it was a page turner sort of sequence. So in the end, this wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. It's definitely shown in a number of places, but there are a number of places it totally dragged. And I think there's 6 or 8 books in this series. I will continue it if as I come across them. I'm not going to go and pursue this with the same priority level that I originally did. But I think, if that sounds any intriguing, if you're a fan of alternate history or time travel, it might be worth checking this out. Again, you're going to probably wish you wouldn't have, getting bogged down into the details of how to build a bakery. But in the end, I think it was worth a read. So, yep, this is Rally Cry by William R. Forstchen, the first in the Lost Regiment series. All right, and then I read a couple of nonfiction books, and the first one I really want to highlight because this was written by a member of our community, of the BookTube community. He has a channel called Bookish, and I believe he's down in Texas. I'm 100% sure he's down in Texas. And he wrote this here, MacArthur's Bloody Butchers, Company G, 163rd Infantry Regiment in World War II. And he wrote this. This came out of a kind of a family history project. His uncle, who I think his name was Doyle Bruce, if I remember correctly, served in this unit in World War II. And as Brian learned that and started to gather stories, just kind of snowballed into wanting to tell more about not just his relatives' experience in the war, but the men around him, the men who he served with. And so what Brian ended up doing was he found some interviews and some correspondence from 4 or 3 other members of this company. And through that and official records, he puts together a nice little narrative from the unit's inception to their deployment to Australia for further training, to their participation in battles in New Guinea and the Philippines and a couple of islands in between. First of all, I really love tactical level military history. I love the small unit stories, and that really I'll pick those up all day long. And then the fact that this was a member of our community, I just had to get it and talk about it a little bit. Now, I enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed this. I appreciate the amount of work that Brian put into this. It doesn't read as much as a narrative history as it does more of a Brian is a history teacher, so it kind of reads like a breakdown of a summary report of the activities of the unit, interspersed with some individual detail and personal stories, and it works for me. It's really good. It's an easy read. If you're a fan of military history, human history, this is definitely a book that you should pick up and support Brian. I really enjoy this book. So, Brian, if you're watching this, I appreciate you putting this book together. This was really a fun read. So take that for high compliment from me, because usually I'm a smart ass. But anyway, this one, check it out. As I'm rambling, and again, probably not in the right level of enthusiasm. All right, so finally for today, let's talk about one more small unit history book, and this is Tonight We Die as Men by Ian Gardner and Roger Day. This tells the story of the 3rd Battalion, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment in World War II. And they're part of the 101st Airborne. Now, when I picked this up, I believe it was at a library sale, I thought it was just, up through D-Day, which it is. I mean, that's what it says right on here, from Toccoa to D-Day. So from the unit's inception, their training, up through their activities on D-Day. And it turns out that this is actually a whole series of books that follows the battalion all the way through the end of the war. So that's cool. I am definitely going to, after reading this, continue to look for those and pick them up as I find them. Much like Brian's book, this is again small unit, tactical level, but these guys are much more in the narrative history vein, or write more in the narrative history vein than Brian does. This is a really well written account of the men's experiences, and it is almost a minute by minute journey along with them. Now that sounds totally dry, but and I guess it can be if you're not. I mean, if you don't have an interest in this in the first place, then it's probably going to suck for you. But if this holds some of your amount of interest for you, just the way that these guys put it together and the detail is exceptional. This is highly recommended. I encourage you to seek this out if this is in the realm of your interest at all. So yeah, I enjoyed that. So this is Tonight We Die as Men by Ian Gardner and Roger Day. All right, that kind of wraps it up for the month, other than the couple of individual reviews that I posted earlier, which you can find somewhere on the channel. Yeah, so I appreciate you stopping by, and I appreciate you watching, and I hope to hear from you in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or your thoughts on something, or maybe a recommendation of something similar. So until next time, which will probably be a book haul coming up in the next week or so, I hope you stay well, and I will talk at you soon.